Okay, today we're going to talk about atomic structure. And the atomic structure is what an atom looks like. An atom is the smallest unit of matter. So all matter is made up of atoms. And you cannot see atoms because they are so small. But you have to believe us that atoms are there. And the simplest atom has a nucleus, and in the nucleus is a particle called a proton and a particle called a neutron. And a proton is a positively charged particle, and that's why I draw it with a P+, and that's a proton, and it is positively charged. And the neutron is not charged at all, and that's why it's called a neutron, because it is neutral. Okay, so inside of the center of the atom we have these two particles. Now this center of the atom is called the nucleus. And that just happens to be the name of the center, the nucleus. And then orbiting around the nucleus are other particles called electrons. And I always put the charge every time I write the symbol for it. So an electron is negatively charged. Negative charge. Okay, so let's put this into a little bit simpler way to remember it. Okay, so I'm going to erase it and I'll draw it again while I tell you a story about a family. It's called the atom family. Okay, there's Peggy and Norman, and they're married to one another, and they live inside of a house. And Peggy does all of the work. So she gets a plus by her name because she does lots. Norman, on the other hand, does nothing. So he doesn't get anything beside his name. And running around the outside of the house are Peggy and Norman's children. And Peggy and Norman's children do less than nothing. And less than nothing is negative. Something we also have to remember is that for every Peggy, there's a Norman. So if there are 8 Peggies, there will be 8 Normans. There are always married couples inside of the nucleus of the atom family. Now, we can have more Peggies and Normans than there are children. And if there are more Peggies than children, then the atom will be positively charged. So let's say, for example, there are 8 Peggies and only 5 children, then the whole atom will be positively charged. And you have to think of that in terms of our atom family. If Peggy does a lot of work, it will be a very clean house, so it will be positive. On the other hand, if there are more children than Peggy's, let's say we have 11 children and only 4 Peggy's, then the house will be a mess. And that means it will be negative. So the atom family will have a negative charge. Okay? So, if there are more protons, the atom will be positive. If there are more electrons, the atom will be negative.